What's up, NBA fans? Dom2K on the mic, and first of all, I want to say Merry Christmas to all of you out there. This video is probably going to be posted a day after Christmas. I made it a point not to post on Christmas Day because of all the amazing NBA games we had, and just like everybody expected, the Warriors and Cavaliers finals rematch turned into an instant NBA classic. This was of course the first time that the Warriors were able to see the Cavaliers since that crazy heartbreaking Game 7. However, I'm not here to recap that game because I noticed something that happened in the game that I'm finally ready to talk about. As you know, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, I'm extremely unbiased when I come to talk about the NBA, and I do not react to things on a game-to-game basis. However, what I have to say about Steph Curry today has been building up for a couple of years, and I had to keep on watching him in these moments to see if it was going to persist, and it has, so sadly, it's time to shine a light on it. So, Steph Curry is an amazing basketball player, and we all know this, and just his third year of being an NBA superstar, he's pretty much already regarded as the greatest shooter of all time. He's won 2 MVPs, one of those was unanimous, and he's won an NBA championship, but somehow, very oddly, he's still facing the same kind of criticism and challenges that some players face when they're trying to win their first ring, and that's the challenge of being able to prove yourself in adverse moments and prove that your name belongs to be up there with the greats like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and all the other guys that we always talk about. Part of the reason Steph Curry is still suffering with this curse is because when he did win his first NBA championship, they just barely did it against a Cavaliers team that was missing 2 of their NBA All-Stars, which caused a lot of people to put an asterisk next to his championship, and in the next season they said, okay, prove yourself, come back and beat a healthy team in the NBA Finals, and then we'll be ready to validate everything everybody's saying about you. And when he came into the next season, he did just that, because he was averaging 30 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, he was doing this on 50% field goal shooting, and his 3-point percentage was at 45%, which is some people's regular field goal percentage. So not only that, but he was doing it on some of the craziest shots we've ever seen from any player in NBA history. He broke a ton of records, along with the Warriors breaking a ton of records. They went 73-9, came within 1 win of the NBA championship, and just couldn't put the icing on it. And that points directly to where our problem with Steph Curry lies, because he's developing this terrible habit of shrinking as the lights get brighter. Now, I want to be clear that I'm talking about the absolute biggest stages like the NBA Finals and playing against the rivals like the Cleveland Cavaliers, and these are the type of games that go on to define your legacy. When people look at you 20 years from now, they look at these things and they see how you performed, and that kind of determines where you get ranked. And I also want to be clear that I think the world of Steph Curry. I've been protecting him for a very long time. I've never really had anything bad to say about the guy, and I've listened to all the bad things people say about him, and as I was watching the Christmas game today, it started to become really obvious, and I started to kind of understand what people were saying about him, because I just, as an unbiased fan, I can't keep ignoring the fact that every time a big game comes up against the Cleveland Cavaliers, which right now is public enemy number 1 for the Warriors, Steph Curry simply does not rise to the occasion. And as a player that was once drawing comparisons to Michael Jordan, last year people were debating whether he or LeBron was the face of the league. You simply cannot afford to be in those ranks and not show up in these type of games. I keep trying to put him above Kyrie Irving. I keep telling everybody he's a better player than Kyrie Irving, yet every time I turn my head and watch that matchup, he's getting outplayed by Kyrie Irving. So what you're seeing displayed on your screen right now is a little archive digging I did for matchups between Stephen Curry and Kyrie Irving once the Cavaliers and Warriors basically officially became a rivalry. And these are all their matchups. I tried to dig up all the times that Kyrie Irving has basically either matched Steph Curry's production or just flat out outplayed him. And it is more often than not when you go back and look at it. So the rivalry was basically birthed on February 26, 2015. This is the first time that the Cavaliers and Warriors matched up at full strength when both of them were elite. So they were both atop their conferences as of this time. People hadn't seen them actually play each other yet, and people were wondering, are the Warriors really legit? Will they be able to take this team in the NBA Finals? Because it kind of seemed like that was going to happen then. And as you can already see with their stats, back then Kyrie had already started outplaying Stephen Curry that early. That was a game that the Cavaliers won, and I believe they broke a Warriors win streak. But as you scroll down the list, you start to see it happen again and again and again. Kyrie Irving is simply putting up better numbers. He's playing better when you actually watch the games than Stephen Curry. He's rising up for the bigger moments more than Stephen Curry is in all of their matchups, and I simply can't ignore this anymore. So something important to talk about here is that even when Kyrie Irving went out in game 1 of the 2015 finals with that knee injury, that's basically when people said, okay, this series is completely over. LeBron doesn't have Kyrie anymore. He doesn't have Kevin Love. The rest of this is a formality, and the Warriors should win this series with basically breaking no sweat. But then something happened. Stephen Curry started to get challenged by Dellavedova. There was allegations that Dellavedova locked him up, which I want to tell you those are false. You should go look that up yourself because that's totally false. However, he did definitely bother him, and he made him work a lot harder than anybody really thought he could. The Warriors did end up closing them out. Stephen Curry did have some good games to end it, but admittedly, this series took longer than it should have. Then it basically took a full year before Kyrie Irving was fully healthy and off of minute restrictions to go back at Stephen Curry, and in the 2016 finals, he just completely outplayed Steph Curry. And this is where I go back to the fact that it's weird that Curry has already won a ring, but still somehow has to prove himself in some of the biggest moments of his career, because we're still waiting for that defining moment in the really important games for Stephen Curry. Even when the Warriors had a commanding 3-1 lead on the Cavaliers in the finals, Steph Curry has still only had one good game out of the 4 played that series. And again, he probably was not going to win Finals MVP had they have actually went on to win that series. I don't want to ramble forever about the Warriors and Cavaliers past. I guess what I'm really trying to say here is that I'm still waiting for Steph Curry to really just kill and take over in the most adverse parts of his career, just like LeBron James once had to do. So when LeBron James was down, 3-2 to the Boston Celtics, he came in and he just went in killer mode for the rest of that postseason, proved himself, and nobody really had to ask any more questions about him after that. And people still did, and he continued to prove everyone wrong right after that. And for a guy that gets titles like best point guard in the league, greatest shooter of all time, unanimous MVP, I need to see him do more than put up great stats and great shots in the regular season. I need to see him get to some of these final series. I need him to get to some of these rival games, and I need to just see him take hearts out. I'll give you an example. The night in Oklahoma when they had that comeback win and he had like 40 points in that amazing game winner, that was when Steph Curry just completely took OKC's heart out. That was just a killer game. However, that was a regular season game that ultimately went on to be a part of a season that ended up a failure. But either way, those aren't the games that define your legacy. The games that define your legacy are like Game 5 of the NBA Finals when Draymond Green is suspended and Andrew Bogut goes down with an injury for the rest of the series. That's when the team looks at you and says, "You're our leader, we need you to kill right now." Because you know what, I think that's the one thing that I get what people were saying now last year when Stephen Curry was being compared to LeBron James, and there was a segment of people out there were just like, there's no way in hell. It was really that we've seen LeBron James just put everything down and push as hard as he's had to for his team, because we've seen him play without Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving and just go and say, you know what, my team needs me, even if it's unfair, life is unfair sometimes, I'm gonna have to do it all right now. And we've seen that from LeBron James, and that's what's defined his legacy. And I think at this point, all I'm really looking for from Curry is that killer mentality that all the greats have, because I'm starting to see too frequently in Curry that when these important games come up, he seems just a little bit too content to let his team do all the things that makes them successful. My dad has these sayings he's basically told me my whole life. One of them is that there is a razor thin line between being great and being phenomenal. And the thing I don't want to see happen to Curry is him have all this talent and do everything that we saw him do last season, but still just end up a great player. Because that line between being great and phenomenal is what those greats like Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan had, where it's just that ability to walk into a game where everybody's watching and say, I'm going to kill tonight, and then actually going out and doing it. And I'm gonna tell you guys a fact that I don't like, but it is a fact, and it's that people are always going to put an asterisk on his championship until he goes and proves himself and beats a team that's actually healthy. Because people are always gonna say Steph Curry's championship, the people that love to call him overrated and they just don't like Curry, are always gonna say that that championship came against a team that they should have basically swept. He got it in 6 games, but again, that team came back and beat him in the next NBA Finals, and they did it in one of the most humiliating ways possible. That's always going to be a stain, and that's the challenge that Curry has to step up and face right now. He's got to erase that. So I just want to say, as I wrap this video up, this is not a video hating on Steph Curry. This isn't me overreacting to a game yesterday. This is the culmination of something I've been watching with Curry for years now, basically since he became an elite basketball player. So no matter how many half-court threes he hits, no matter how many times he destroys, these average teams around the NBA, to really elevate his status into legendary, he's going to have to start coming up and going back at Kyrie Irving. I know he doesn't guard Kyrie Irving all the time, but I'm just saying, the few times he has, it didn't really turn out that nicely. And just in these matchups in the head-to-head where their two teams play, he's getting outplayed nearly every time. He's got to step up in those. And when you get put on TV for Christmas Day, I seriously cannot be asking myself if you're actually in the game or not. Like, you've got to be more assertive than that as a player who gets talked about the way you do. I admire Steph Curry's unselfishness, and I understand that part of his pitch to Kevin Durant in the offseason was that he didn't care who sold more shoes or whose team it was, he just wanted to win, and I totally respect wanting to win. But at that same time, you've got to be able to step up and assert your dominance in these type of games, because so far, a lot of what people remember about his dominant days is that he's been able to show up during the season, but it kind of wears off as he gets to the NBA Finals. These games against the Cavaliers, right now, they are the Golden State Warriors rivals. Those are the most important games, whether it's regular regular season or playoffs. That's basically where 20 years from now people are going to be looking back to define the legacy. And ultimately, that's what people are going to be looking at to draw the line between great and phenomenal. So I'm done for the day. That's all I wanted to say about Curry. Terrific player, but I'm still waiting on those career defining moments, because a crossover 3 on Matthew Dellavedova in the NBA Finals, that's not going to cut it 20 years from now. I'd like to know what you guys think about Stephen Curry and what you think about his performance in these type of games. And I'd like to know if you think Steph Curry is even that type of player where he can step up, because remember, we're talking about the NBA Finals here. That's a huge stage. Not everybody has the ability to step up in those environments, and maybe Steph Curry doesn't have that. I'd love to know what you guys think. Again, this was nothing close to a hate video, so don't get emotional. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'm Dom2K, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Merry Christmas.